rates will turn that into about 15 to 16% of the federal budget overnight. How long can we live with zero interest rates? How long can we keep giving money? Yes, sir.
There's also another problem that our houses have declined in value, our taxes have doubled, I know at least in the last 10 years. Why don't we start cutting these, government jobs and spend? They always say we're going to lay off firemen, we're going to lay off policemen. Keep the policemen, but cut the teachers' salaries instead of making $100,000 a year. And they got if you go online, you can see on some of these government jobs, painter, Kane County, just paint a prison cell. It starts off at $83,000 a year. I mean, you see that all over the place on the internet. On government jobs, they never go down. Another thing too is we got this prevailing wage thing, where if you hire, like the village hires somebody to cut the grass, they got to pay him $40 an hour or something like that. And I know the guy that's cutting the grass isn't getting $40 an hour.
Is it, and we go back to this fairness issue, is it fair that today in America, it's almost more profitable to work in the public sector than the private sector?
Yes.
Do you know housing in D.C. the last 3 or 4 or 5 years? Housing in D.C. is through the roof. You see big cranes all over D.C. D.C.'s been doing just fine. They've been growing like you wouldn't believe. Yes, sir. All the way over here.
I'm not afraid to tell you that my name is Richard Krause, and I'm a federal retiree, and then I belong to the National Active and Retired Federal Employees Association, NARFA. I want to put a question to all of you, and to you, Representative Walsh. What could I, what could we, what could you do to tell our representatives and our senators to quit playing politics and go along party lines from the upper echelon, like Mr. Boyner and Mr. Reed, and as you say, do what's right for the country and pass the bills that will get us out of this damn lot of the problems.
Thank you. I think here's the only way to save it. I think the American people need to wake up, and they need to send people to Washington who will change it. It's a simple answer, but let me explain. The goal of every politician in Washington and Springfield is to get... Okay. Do that louder. The goal of every politician is to get... Okay, so read my lips. This will be on tape. I could give a darn about my next election. I went to Washington 2 years ago, and I actually did something. I limited myself. I said I'm not going to serve more than 6 years. I believe in term limits. I introduced the bill last year. Doesn't matter what party you're on, Republican or Democrat. We got a whole, it's like a whole species of people. It's called the professional politician. They stay there forever, they grow government, they forget about the rest of us. So one thing, vote for people who say they will limit their terms. I went to Congress and I turned down my congressional health care and I turned down my pension. We got to vote for people, Republican and Democrat, who, as you say, this country that we love is falling off a cliff. I don't care about my next election. I'm going to do what I need to do to try to save this stuff. And I got to be honest, it's hard. Because what I just said right there that's on every camera, it drives my staff crazy. They say, oh, Walsh, please don't say that. Please don't say you don't care about the next election. Because we've trained politicians. They're like trained SEALs. And by the way, everybody in this room is partly to blame for this. If all a politician wants to do is get reelected, what do they do every 2 or 4 years? They promise you things. They give you things. Because we've trained our politicians to think that the way to get reelected is to give you something. I'll give you free contraceptives. I'll take care of your student loan. Free health care. I'll give you this, I'll give you that. Because we politicians think, if I do this, I'll get reelected. And you know what, folks? Folks, it's worked. And so now we're flat broke because we trained our politicians to sell the bank, and they did it. The only way you're going to stop it is to elect people and demand that they really don't care about the next election. Otherwise, this is lost. We can't have people in Washington, Springfield who've been there forever.
Right. Congressman, I apologize. I got to get going.
Go.
But I want to thank you. After hearing your troubles, I'm glad you're there.
Could we start a program where we trade jobs for a week?
Get out of here. Good luck.
But you know what, guys? It's on you and you too. Don't just blame your politicians. Be honest. Have you really paid attention to this stuff forever? No! 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 You've lived your... I'm coming to you. I'm on a roll right now. You've lived your life. You've raised your family. You tried to start a business. You went on vacation. You coached your kids in soccer. Every couple of years an election came along. But be honest. Most of us didn't really pay attention. We kept sending the same guy to Washington. We are part of the problem. The American people better wake up if they want to save this thing. Yes, sir.
My name is Usama Camel Dakdok. I'm Egyptian American citizen.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I've been in this country for about 20 years, and I'm looking forward for the day to see some godly men and women in the Senate, in the Congress, who will stand in the face of the danger of Islam in America without political correctness. A year and a half ago, I have sent you a copy look like that, which is the Generous Quran. Have you received it?
I believe so.
Have you read any part of it?
I have not.
Well, here is the problem. I think the Bible said in Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And so far, I have not seen in this country, but Alan West, Michelle Parkman, who start to talk about the danger of Islam. I mean, I'm honored to stand here in this meeting and I talk to you personally, and I want the American people to know that Islam is not the loving, peaceful religion we hear about all over this media. Our congressmen being quiet, our senator being quiet, and Muslims are taking over America because of our ignorance of Islam. The book of the Quran, which I hold in my hand, I have translated. It took me 4 years with at least 50 men and women who worked hard to put this in a true, accurate English translation, not the sugar-coated one which is made by Muslims. And we sent that copy to every senator, to every congressman, to every governor, to the High Supreme Justice Court, and we're ready for 2012 election to be over to send a copy to the new one. But having this book in your desk and others without reading it, we still have not done anything. I spent $13,000 in 1 week in a small ministry as ours that make sure you get this copy. I beg you, please, stop Muslims from taking over America and get rid of political correctness. Islam is not a loving, peaceful religion. Not one verse in this book teaches love or peace. But this book teaches hate to all American, Christian, Jew, and atheist alike.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You hate it when a politician makes a promise. I'll make you a promise. I will read it this month. I will read it this month. Let me make 2 quick points. And I respect what you're saying. 2 quick points. One of the committees I sit on is Homeland Security. I'm not sure of a lot of things. One thing I'm sure of is that there are people here in this country. There is a radical strain of Islam in this country. It's not just over there, trying to kill Americans every week. It is a real threat. And it is a threat that is much more at home now than it was right after 9/11. It's here. It's in Elk Grove, it's in Addison, it's in Elgin. It's here. And if your country, again, we talk about what do we want government to do? Well, I believe in a limited government, but this is one thing I want my government doing is protecting us against this threat. Because let's be honest, folks, it is a threat. I talk to high school classes a lot, and I always say the following. And I hate to say this. It's not a matter of if another 9/11 happens. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. And in the when, and all I can tell you about the when is the people that would want to do this to America are trying to get their hands on weapons that will make 9/11 look like child's play. So we had better be alert to this. And as you said, poignantly and pointedly, enough with political correctness. Enough! Can you say Fort Hood? Your government was so afraid of doing its job, so afraid of offending Islam, that right in front of our noses, we saw what was happening in Fort Hood, and because your government was politically correct, Americans died. Thank you. Other thoughts, issues, questions? Let's go way over there.
Does the House and the Senate have any way of putting a lid on these executive orders? I mean, he signed 5 times as much,
Yeah.
pushed it in 8 years,
Yeah.
and yesterday he signed 7 more green leading ones.
Here's what Congress can do, and Congress needs the backbone to do this. He's abused it. Every president's done it. Obama's abused it. He's worse than any president. So what Congress needs to do is investigate. So put a spotlight on him, hold hearings on every executive order he enacts, and the second thing we can do is just not provide any funding to implement those executive orders. But to do that, Congress needs to take a stand. Thoughts, issues, questions? Yes, sir.
So we have had a lot of discussion tonight about billions and trillions of dollars. And about a year ago, the thing going on in Washington was there was a big discussion and debate about the debt ceiling, and the net result of that is that there will be some automatic reductions in budgets going out over the next 10 years or so. And that's all fine and good, in my opinion. But what really bothers me is that the 1,000 ways government is on my back is still on my back. And the thing is that this reduction in budgets, and you talk about cutting the budget and so on and so forth, trillions and billions, but the net result is that the 1,000 ways that the government is on my back is only going to get unfunded by a couple percentage points, which isn't much. And what really strikes me as odd is that in Congress today, it should be really easy to dismantle the government brick by brick. But you guys went on your NPR, and I got to say, that's about 999 out of the 1,000 down on the list. And what I can't fathom is why in Congress today, nobody is dismantling the government. Out of all the thousands of agencies and bureaus and departments and programs and initiatives, you talk about education, but there's thousands of things out there in agriculture, in commerce, interior, transportation, veterans, energy, and so on. But nobody's killing these things. It should be really, really easy for you and your colleagues to write a one-page bill that says this program is terminated January 1st, or July 1st, or 12 months out in the future. How come that hasn't happened?
Thank you. Thank you.